Here's a little secret most married couples already know. If you want a relationship that lasts decades, aim for connection, not perfection. You don't need fireworks every single night. What you do need is what I call maintenance sex. It's simple, regular intimacy that keeps the bond strong even when life is messy and busy. Stay with me and I'll show you how good enough intimacy actually fuels a long term passion. We're going to dig in. Welcome to the Secret Formula of Femininity for women who want to live a more feminine, fun, and fabulous life. I'm Dr. Nicole Monteiro, your host on this weekly journey to unlocking your inner radiance, nurturing fulfilling relationships, and becoming the best version of yourself. Welcome back, everybody. I'm Dr. Nicole, your host and guide to tapping into your feminine essence. And today we are busting a big marriage myth. The myth is that sex should always be this mind blowing, spontaneous thing like you see in the movies. And here's a spoiler alert: it doesn't have to. And that's the good news. Because when you stop chasing perfection and you start trying to find connection consistently, that's where you start to spark passion that lasts longer than one night. So let me tell you a story about a couple that was at a couples retreat that I was co-hosting with other coaches and therapists. And this was a great couple, but they came to the retreat looking completely defeated. This was like their last effort to try to salvage things. And they were both professionals, had a lot going on, two kids, younger kids, still school age. And they were convinced when it was time for us to go around, they were convinced that this was it for them. Their marriage was doomed, although they wanted to keep it together. And the thing that was on both of their ends, the wife was kind of nervous that her husband felt like there wasn't enough sex, but she also felt like that too. And they were kind of like, we barely have sex anymore. And the wife added, when we do, it's like it's not the same. It just feels routine. And they thought routine was a red flag, that this was an indication that things were going downhill. They were losing their attraction, their spark, even their love for each other. But to me, this was a starting point. It wasn't a death sentence. This was actually a sign of life in their relationship. I asked them about what their schedule and their week looked like, and I could totally relate. It was like activities here and there, especially as the kids were getting older and in different age ranges. It was promotions for the husband. It was doing extra things for the wife, and a life was just lifing. Then there were house things, all the maintenance things, a leaky roof, a leaky dishwasher. There were bedtime battles, arguments about technology between the parents and the kids, and even the parents, the couple themselves. So there was a lot going on in terms of life. And then I stopped them after they explained what their week looks like. And I told them that long term love and passion is not measured by how many or how often you have butterflies. It's really measured by how often you turn to each other and reach for each other despite not having the butterflies. So the fact that they were having sex that felt routine was actually a great starting point. I shared with them tons of research, specifically from the Gottman Relationship Institute, that showed that couples who maintain consistent connection report higher levels of personal as well as relationship satisfaction than those who are waiting for the perfect moment to be intimate, therefore having larger and larger gaps in between, which then diminishes or decreases their actual connection. So I had to share that research with them so that they could know that they weren't alone. And the thing that they thought was really bad or wrong was actually a great thing happening in their relationship. We just needed to help them see it differently, tweak a few things, and help them continue to connect with each other and have more moments of passion, but still turn to each other regardless of whether the butterflies were there or not. Instead of feeling like they had to chase passion, they started to see the value in scheduling short, pressure free moments of intimacy, letting spontaneous moments creep in, and they started to lower the bar. They were both high achieving professionals and, in some ways, perfectionists. And that made them think everything had to be great. But when they lowered the bar, the passion that they thought was missing started to creep back in. And in surprising ways, those butterflies started to reemerge. But let me tell you, that couple was in no way unique. If you're listening and you're wondering, how can I bring back the spark in my relationship? Or if you're wondering whether your relationship is in trouble because we don't have the same fun that we used to, I want you to stay with me. If you're feeling like your marriage is a little meh, then we're going to bust some marriage myths and help you see things a little differently. So let's bust some of these myths that are actually causing a lot of tension and friction in relationships. And I hear these, whether it's in my office and my DMs, even in popular culture, we're immersed in these myths. Myth number one is that great marriages means great sex every single time. The reality is that desire ebbs and flows naturally, regardless of life stress. And then you add stress and lifing and kids and career and all of these things that so many people are experiencing in their lives, then of course that is going to add extra stress and affect desire. Research from a 2021 study in the Journal of Sex and Marital Therapy found that frequency, not intensity, is the strongest predictor of overall relationship satisfaction. So having 10, 12, okay encounters during the month is better than one or two intense, mind blowing encounters. It's the frequency over a long period of time that counts because it says you're going to be committed to staying connected even when life goes up and down or even when desire ebbs and flows. All right, so myth number two, and I hear this all the time, scheduling sex kills spontaneity. The reality is that scheduling can do the opposite. It can create anticipation. First of all, it ensures connection, but within that, there can be a lot of flirtation. There can be the anticipation, almost like you're going out on your first date. You can make it into something that has a bit of excitement and spontaneity with it. There's been some great research, including sex educator Dr. Emily Nagoski. She says, and I quote, planned intimacy actually increases arousal because context and anticipation build desire, especially for women. For women, intimacy is so contextual. They have to feel like they're in the mood a lot of times, but sometimes they need coaching to allow themselves to get a little aroused and stimulated, whether physically or mentally, to quote, get in the mood. But either way, the context of knowing that you're going to connect with your partner can help to build mental as well as physical desire. So it's the context or how you all frame or perceive the scheduled sex that creates the desire, not just whether or not it's quote spontaneous or not. And something about spontaneity is that sometimes it there's a mismatch. So it can feel like one person is expecting it and then it doesn't happen and that leads to more of a letdown and disappointment. And so if you are at least scheduling some of it, you know that both people know what to expect and when. Okay, the third myth, okay, I like this one, is that quickies mean your relationship is in trouble. So there's a life aspect to this and a chemical aspect to it. Let's talk about the chemical brain aspect of it. Short encounters can help release bonding hormones such as oxytocin, and this reinforces that sense of emotional safety, connection, being able to trust and lean into each other. So that's not a bad thing. It's better to have that chemical connection and reaction, even if it's through quick moments. The other thing, though, is that life is life. And you've heard me say that many times. And if you are only depending on things being calm to be able to engage and connect to each other, you're missing out on the chemical reaction of connection, but also but you're also missing out on one of the benefits of sexual intimacy in a trusting relationship, and that is stress relief. So, the very thing that you're waiting to go down, which is stress, before you're intimate, well, the intimacy could actually help the stress to go down. So, there's the chemical part, and then there's the life part where you need to be able to be adaptable and find ways to fit what's important to you into a life that already feels very full and in some ways overwhelming. But that's just what it is. When you are in certain periods in your marriage, when you're in certain periods of raising kids or doing other things in your career or life, life is going to be full. You have to learn to carve out time, even if it's a short amount of time, for those things that are a priority to you in your relationship. So you can think of these quickies, so to speak, as relationship vitamins. They're not lesser versions of real sex. They're like the vitamins. You ever take, when you're having a cold, you might take zinc or vitamin C, or you take a daily vitamin or any other supplement. That's to enhance. It's not a replacement for real food. It's not a lesser version of real food, but it's an important part of what's keeping you well and balanced. So let's pause for a second. Which of these myths do you secretly believe? Part of rewriting the story and reframing your connection in your relationship is understanding the myths that you are unconsciously carrying. So just noticing is the first step. And once you realize you've been buying into a myth and that it's been controlling your life in some ways, your sex life, then you can make some changes. You can rewrite the story. So let's talk about why maintenance sex works on a biological level for both men and women. You've heard me talk about these love bonding hormones, oxytocin and vasopressin specifically. They flood the body during affectionate touch. And that helps to lower cortisol. It helps to reinforce trust. We've heard that cortisol is something we need in short spurts when we're under stress, but so many of us are living in such a stressful state of being that we have high levels of cortisol. It can disrupt our sleep, it can contribute to weight gain and all kinds of aches and pains and anxiety within our body and in our mind. So, anything we can do to lower that is actually going to be good for our health. So, if you think about maintenance intimacy as something that's good for your health, I think that can help you to see it in a slightly different way. And you also need to understand that boredom is not danger. So many of us are amped up. We're looking for stimulation, whether it's through our electronics, through drama, sometimes through toxicity, or these high intense moments that we're not able to have our nervous system regulated. Well, boredom can help to do that. It can help bring us to a state of equilibrium or balance where our nervous system is more regulated. And then when it's regulated, it can actually experience those higher moments in a more joyful, fulfilling way. So the boredom is actually a sign of security. So let's talk about the dopamine paradox. We've heard so much about dopamine, and it is really a really powerful neurotransmitter. It is released when we get a reward, even when we're anticipating a reward. And the novelty of a new relationship certainly spikes dopamine. And this is what drives that early sense of infatuation when you are falling in love. Literally, it's like you have lost your mind. You get flooded with this sense of pleasure and reward and satisfaction. However, that is not a state you can constantly maintain. Research on long term relationships shows how there are different areas of the brain, as well as different neurotransmitters and chemicals in our brains that are released in a longer term love reaction. The areas of the brain connected with long term connection, bonding, and attachment are what are more active as a relationship matures. And that's something that people have to get used to. And I think that's something we need to be educated about because I think we watch the movies, we see the couple's goals. And even though people will tell you marriage is hard, they don't really show you the ins and outs. So people are expecting this fairy tale infatuation, dopamine flooded experience all throughout their relationship. When in fact, that only happens in the beginning to bond you intensely. And then there's other parts of the brain and our chemical reactions that start to take over to really solidify that bond. So long term relationships thrive on that oxytocin that I talked about, the hormone of calm, connection, and bonding. We get to be in a place where our serotonin, which is a key factor in depression, but also in stable mood. So when our serotonin is at a stable level, we feel just generally satisfied and our mood feels balanced. So these are the hormones and neurotransmitters we need to be thinking about, not just the dopamine and the intense experiences. Also, there's a lot of longitudinal, so long term research on this idea of maintenance sex. There was a Stanford study of 3,000 couples, so pretty large sample size, that found that those who maintained weekly sexual contact, regardless of the quality rating, reported higher life satisfaction than those who were waiting for the perfect moment. Now, I hear the chatter and I've heard it from people like, so does this mean I should just settle for unsatisfying sex? No, that is just the baseline. It's saying no matter what, we're going to keep this connection. But yes, of course, you have to practice communication, sharing with each other what you like and don't like, being open to trying different things and staying connected, communicating outside of sex, being intimate with each other in terms of affection and playfulness, and all of those things are super important. But if we were to just compare frequency versus quality, frequency, this is a case where quantity is actually better than just chasing quality in terms of maintaining that connection. Think about the last time you connected with your partner without pressure. How did it make you feel? Were you calm? Did you feel grounded? If so, that was oxytocin at work. And you can experience that regardless of the quote quality or the sparks that fly. It's just the connection itself. So it can be really grounding, calming, and balancing. Okay, so we've talked about the research and the brain, and hopefully I've given you some evidence and convinced you that maintenance intimacy is super important in your long-term relationship. Now let's talk about some tips. Let's get practical. These are some of my favorite tools when working with couples as well as women when I work with them individually around bringing maintenance intimacy into everyday life. Okay? So, number one is the mindset. Everything starts with mindset, whether it's becoming, whether it's leaning into more ease or your femininity or a soft life, it's about your mindset. So, the mindset shift that is so important around maintenance intimacy is to treat intimacy like brushing your teeth. This is what I call the maintenance mindset. Treat it as something that is a consistent habit that prevents decay. No one has to tell you to brush your teeth. You know the evidence is there that if not, you will build up plaque and tartar, your teeth will rot, and so on and so forth. So it is something that prevents decay. Well, maintenance intimacy prevents the decay, or it's one of the things that prevents decay in your relationship. It can even set the stage to soften each partner up to better communication, exploration, and so forth. But it's that baseline thing that is required to prevent decay. You want to remember to aim for connection, not performance. Let me say that again. You want to aim for connection, not performance. Take the pressure off of each other. All right, so the second thing is these micro connections. 5-minute hugs, shared showers, holding hands while watching TV, a light brush across the arm, the back of the neck, the head, any kind of connection that might feel small and insignificant, but that says, hey, I see you. I want to connect you. I want you to connect to me. Research shows that touch lowers those stress hormones. It lowers the cortisol, even the adrenaline, and it boosts immune function. That's why massage is so powerful. Well, think about your spouse as a built in massage therapist. You can give each other massages, but sometimes you can just touch each other, hug each other, give a short rub, share a shower, things that help to connect you physically on a micro level. The third tip is to start practicing the 6-second kiss. I love this one. So, the Gottman Institute talks about how to stay connected. And one thing that research shows is that couples that have at least one 6-second kiss every day report higher levels of relationship satisfaction. So, It doesn't even have to go into the bedroom. When that person leaves for work or you all part ways or whatever, you have a moment, stop and kiss. Kissing is very intimate. So you want to give that a bit of length to it, 6 seconds, and see how it transforms the way you all connect. The fourth thing is to schedule connection windows. It doesn't have to be an exact rigid time. So you can pick 2 or 3 nights a week for cuddle time, for sex, for other ways to express intimacy. So if one of those doesn't work, okay, you can reschedule, but you're telling yourself we have a minimum of these 2 or 3 days a week that we are going to connect. You can put it on the calendar and then you can get those reminders, and that anticipation can help to fuel desire because there's no guessing game. You know that you're going to connect. And even if you miss one of the days, that can even build up the anticipation for the next day or the day after that you all are committed to connecting. The next tip is to think about a maintenance menu. Create a playful menu with your partner, things like massages, mutual self care, cooking for each other, quickies, longer sessions. Create a whole menu and try to, you can even make it like a bingo card, like, okay, which one are we going to do? But you have some options. So it's not just if we don't do this one thing, then we've failed at it. When you have a menu, you have options. And this also keeps it fun and pressure free. We need to return back to some of our younger years, our childlike wonder and excitement about things that bring us joy versus feeling pressure and trying to do it perfectly. And then finally, communication. Communication is so key. Use I feel statements to discuss your needs without blame. If you need more sex, if you need more attention, if you need more cuddle time, if you need to feel more rested, use those I statements to make sure you're communicating your needs. So, one example would be I miss our bedtime cuddles and I want to bring them back. That says to your partner, especially as a woman, if you say that to your husband, that will make him so excited and happy. It's a way that you're showing, hey, I want to take some initiative. I'm excited. I miss you. I love being with you. And that is always going to be welcome. So this week, I want you to choose one of these tools and practice it twice. Just one of them. I gave you 6. No performance, no pressure, just connection. So let's talk about some of the real life challenges, the common challenges that couples face once they are in the thick of their marriage, living life, raising kids, whatever it is that they're doing. There can be many challenges to trying to uphold the maintenance sex. One is a busy schedule, right? So you can do things like use a shared calendar, delegate chores, plan intimacy like you would plan anything else. We have a huge board in our kitchen that lists everybody's activities, even the weather, what we're meals, who's doing what for lunch, what we're having for dinner. That takes away some of the pressure throughout the week and it gives us more time to be stress free, to enjoy each other. Then you can have a personal calendar with your spouse where it's a shared calendar, a shared intimacy calendar that has those menu items. You can invite them to, hey, can we have a quickie tonight? Oh, hey, let's do a massage. Let's do this. Let's do that. You can put those things on your mutual calendar and it helps to alleviate some of the guessing game. The other thing that can be a challenge is mismatched libidos. So let's normalize that we're not always on the same page. You can explore ways to compromise. Perhaps Perhaps there can be ways to have maintenance intimacy without full intercourse, where the person who has a lower libido can share what they need to be better in the mood. But don't take difference in libido as something that's wrong with you all. It is normal. We all respond to stress differently. We might have medical issues, things going on that affect our bodies, how we're feeling about ourselves. One thing for women is that confidence and how they feel about themselves play a big part in their libido and their desire. So, as a woman, you need to pour into yourself. You need to say affirmations. You need to feel good. Look at your body and be happy about your body, even if it's not exactly where you want to be. Know that your husband does not care about all that stuff. He just wants to be with you. And for the men, they need to help to support their wives in feeling good, feeling sexy, feeling desired. That will increase her libido 100-fold right there. If you make a woman feel good, her libido will follow afterwards, okay? But it's okay that it's a bit mismatched. It's just important to communicate and learn to compromise. The big one, this is the biggest one, is parenting stress, especially if you have younger kids, but across the spectrum, because as they get older, there's activities, there's the teen rebellion, there's so many things going on. And if you reframe sex as a stress reliever rather than another chore on your to do list, that will help to mitigate the role of parenting stress. So see sex and intimacy as something that helps to bring relief rather than adds to all the things that you have to do as a parent. Ask yourself, which of these obstacles shows up the most for you? Is it time, desire, or stress? Naming it helps to give you more power in taming it. So, at least recognizing which one is most challenging for you helps you to have a plan for how to manage it. All right, so we are going to get into some Q&A, and these are from various DMs I've received, even in my inner circle community, things that have come up. So, question one is, what if I don't feel like having sex at all? That is totally normal. As I said, desire fluctuates. You want to check your stress, your health, your sleep, and your emotional connection. Are there ways that you're feeling emotionally disconnected? Are there things you need to communicate? Are there things going on with you in terms of health, medication? Sleep is a big one. So, a lot of times we don't want to disrupt our sleep. It creates a cycle of insomnia. So, check all of those things without beating yourself up. So, check all of those things without beating yourself up and without blaming your partner for wanting more. All right, question number two is, won't maintenance sex kill passion? And this is one of those myths. And actually, maintenance sex primes the pump, so to speak. Regular contact sets the stage for that passion to really flourish and creep in. So, this is one of those things where it's important to change your mindset so you're more willing to engage in maintenance sex, which is then going to provide an opportunity for more passion. So the third question is, how often is normal? So there is no magic number. That is something that you all have to determine as a couple. There's no normal number, but what you all can determine is, what is your goal? Satisfaction in terms of being able to feel good about connecting is what's important. If you all want to start with once a week, that's great. If you decide that more frequency is better, but you do want to try to have regular frequency. The key is to watch out for that mindset that says it has to be so perfect, it has to be mind blowing. If not, we're not doing it, right? A quickie in the closet is better than waiting for vacation next month to find a hotel, right? You need to connect regularly. That is the key. It's not about a number, it's about the consistency. All right. Finally, question number four is, it feels transactional. How do I keep it loving? Yes, I like that. So you want to pair these maintenance encounters or maintenance intimacy encounters with affection. Things like eye contact, a soft voice, a compliment, sharing gratitude to say, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Those things help to keep the emotional spark alive, which for women is super important. So think about ways that you can infuse that affection so it doesn't feel so transactional to you. Those were some great questions. Let's recap the truth about maintenance sex. One is that perfection is a trap. Connection is the goal. Perfection tends to trap a lot of us, and it traps us in terms of sex and intimacy in our relationships. So remember that connection is the real goal. The second thing is that scheduling is caring. It's not unromantic. It's a way of saying you are a priority. This is a priority. We are a priority. It's not unromantic, it's an act of caring. And finally, quick, consistent intimacy is the key to building passion. It's the building block. So don't neglect it. Healthy love isn't always thrilling, it's steady, it's safe and real. And that's what gives passion the room to grow and flourish. So you're setting the stage for more and more passion as you engage in maintenance sex. If this episode resonated with you, share it with a friend. But better yet, listen to it, re listen to it with your partner, and you all can discuss which maintenance habits you are going to start implementing. Listen together, communicate to understand, and put it into action. And if you want deeper guidance, you can get my book, The Boundaries to Bliss Blueprint, for women who are finally ready to win at love. And if you want to be part of a community of women who are seeking to have fulfilling relationships, develop healthy boundaries, and reconnect to their femininity, make sure you check out the Boundaries to Bliss Society, my inner circle community for women who are seeking to elevate within themselves and within their relationships. Remember, good enough intimacy is more than enough to keep love alive and flourishing. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode. I will see you next time. I'm Dr. Nicole.